Good evening. I want to welcome everybody to the July 16, 2018 meeting of the Jersey Village City Council. Madam Secretary, a quorum is present.
Yes.
Very good. We'll move into item B on our agenda this evening, the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Tonight's prayer will be by American Legion Post 324 chaplain, and the pledge by Stephanie Otto, commander of the Jeremy E. Ray, American Legion Post 324. Michael. That'll move us right into presentations. Presentation of the Police Department Employee of the Second Quarter Award, Stephanie Otto or her designee. That's commitment right there. Thank you, Chief. Just let us know when he's here. All right, then we'll actually hold off on the presentations. We'll move into citizens' comments this evening. Citizens who've signed a card and wish to speak to the City Council will be heard at this time, compliant to the Texas Open Meetings Act. Unless the subject matter of the comment is on the agenda, the City staff and City Council members are prevented from discussing any subject and may respond only with statements of factual information or existing policy. Citizens are limited to 5 minutes for the comments to City Council. Cheryl DeForge.
Sure. Well, first I want to say thank you for the attempt at transparency, because people like me who have other prior commitments for organizations that often conflict with this are hard for me to keep up. So I do it looking at the videos and reading the minutes, and I appreciate it. I know you probably don't think any citizens do, but I think there's a lot of us out there that do. You'd be surprised. So with that being said, and having scoured the website about all the news that's out there now about the clubhouse for the golf course, conspicuously absent from everything is a business plan and a feasibility study and looking at different scenarios. Anybody who is in business, which I think a few of you might qualify for that, I don't think would invest your own money in your business without doing that, and I think it's unrealistic and not in your fiduciary responsibility to taxpayers to do that for us, for our tax dollars. We're talking about, there have been other numbers, but close to or just under $2 million that you want to spend. I understand you want to finance it with the hot tax. I've done some reading on the hot tax, and I think you will have a very difficult time qualifying for that. We're not going to have conventions here. You also, I don't see any scenarios you want to put an industrial grade kitchen in it and a restaurant. Well, have you even thought about if you have a restaurant come in its current location that can only be open during daylight hours, is that really going to be more profitable than what a snack bar is right now? I don't think you've thought through these issues. And I think if you had a business plan, you did feasibility studies, you looked at different scenarios, you actually did cash flow projections, and I've heard several of you in writing and verbally say that the golf course is profitable. I don't know where you get the definition of profitability, but just in the 9 months that were presented in the June meetings, for the 9 previous months, the golf course lost over $23,000 revenue expenses. That does not take into account any of the debt servicing, which apparently I've talked with people who've tried to find it, and that's actually very concealed in the city records. We know we bought the golf course, I guess, for around $3 million, and that loan's been rolled over many times, so we actually lose the concept of servicing the debt on the golf course. I think you all have or many of you have a misconception of what the citizens here want. I don't play golf, If you ask me, do I like the golf course? I say yes. If you ask me, would it be good to keep the golf course? I would say yes. But you've got to provide me with some value, and I think the berm goes partly to that, but you need to look at profitability on other aspects. So I would admonish you to start acting like a business, because a city is a business, and not just building it and they will come because you think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Mary Ruth Rosmondi.
I'm Mary Ruth Rosmondi. I live at 10 Parkway Place. And since it's on the agenda that the berm will be discussed, I am hopeful that one of the councilmen could answer. I have 3 questions, and hope that it can be addressed. My first question: since Harris County has approved the funding for the White Oak Bayou to be expanded, which is a tremendous thing, which would help Jersey Village, is the berm even necessary, or could we go ahead and go to the Wall Street project and do the sewer thing and not do the berm at all? If someone could address that. Second question: I'm concerned as to why we were originally told that the berm was going to be 2 feet, and the latest diagrams or maps that were sent to us says that the berm at its highest will be 3.25 feet. I'd like someone to address that. And my last question is, has anyone thought about how you're going to capture the storm water that will definitely be in between the people's houses and the berm? If you walk the fence of the golf course, you will see what I'm talking about, that the house is back up to the golf course. And if you raise the berm, there is going to be a ditch in between the house and the berm. And have you thought about how you will resolve that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mark Malloy.
Hi, my name's Mark Malloy, 7803 Hamilton Circle, past City Council member for the City of Jersey Village, Texas. Citizens' comments for the 07/16/2018 City Council meeting. Please make my verbal comments and documents given to the City Secretary a permanent record of this meeting. I looked over the City Council packet for this month, and I looked over it extensively, and I found where the way they've got it posted on capital improvements is the Director of Parks and Recreation is looking to reuse treated wastewater to help irrigate the golf course. The plan is to use treated wastewater from the Castle Bridge wastewater treatment plant, and the estimated facility output per day is 200,000. I think it's 250,000 gallons per day. The information about the project says during summer months, the golf course water well usage is over 1 million gallons per day. The estimated cost to pay for the water used on the golf course per year is $200,000. That is an average daily cost of $547.94 a day. The amount of water that the city uses to water the golf course is the equivalent water usage of 3,150 residential homes per day, based on the United States national average of 3.5 persons per home, using 90 gallons per person, or the equivalent of 100 10,000-gallon residential swimming pools. So anyway, I've been up here many times talking about the cost to the taxpayers that the golf course, it costs the taxpayers, and the city uses other revenue other than the taxpayers' money on the golf course. And so basically, I've talked about that I feel that the golf course should be made into a detention area like the already existing 43-acre detention area. And the reason I feel that that is necessary is because the city has 704 acres of extra territorial jurisdiction on the south side of US 290, and they have plans on developing that area. And they've already got that in the capital improvements forecasted plans, and it's not very far into the future that they do plan on doing this. And so my concern is how much additional runoff is going to be caused by the development, and how much of that water is going to come over to the north side of the city where all the already existing residential homes are. The city already has a flooding problem with the people that live on the north side of the city. And so if the city is not going to do effective required mitigation, then we're just going to have additional flooding. The city, has found that the Harris County Flood Control is going to supposedly do the project that has been on the books for many years now, and that it's supposedly going to help with the flooding problem, but I don't feel that it's going to be enough to, cause the development of the other area on the south side of US 290 to not flood, even if we get the work done that Harris County Flood Control says they're going to do. So anyway, I guess that's about all I have to talk about today, and thanks for giving me the time to make my comments.
Jim Fields.
Hello, my name is Jim Fields. I live at 16413 St. Helier. Thank you, Mayor and City Council, allowing me to participate in this evening's meeting. Side note here, I'm for the golf course. Keep it up. Thank you. There's one issue here that was very bothersome to me, and it's the reign of terror of code enforcement. I hate to say it like that, but that is what it is. The continued actions of the code officer, Gordon Gibson, telling others who reported who must stop. Case in point, on May 14th, 2018, code enforcer Gordon Gibson came to my residence at 16413 St. Helier and told my wife we're in violation because of a tree trunk in our front yard. My wife thanked him and for reporting the issue, and he proceeded to tell her, the person that reported us, don't care. We appreciated that we were within the codes. Concerned about other citizens who also may be a victim of code officers' actions, I reported what had happened and advised others to report code issues anonymously on Nextdoor. I received an email from another person who experienced the same thing. A couple of days later, a citizen came to my residence harassing my wife. That's uncalled for. Why? Why? Because he informed my wife that a code officer, Gordon Gibson, told him who reported him. This is not the first time. When I ran for office, for council, code officer Gordon Gibson gave a list of issues I reported to my opposing candidate. I'm asking the mayor and city council to look into this matter to be sure this does not happen again. I'd like to end this on a positive note. I want to thank City Manager Blease. He's been working with me a lot on this code enforcement. He put up the website to help people report the issues, which is great. However, we have one issue outstanding. If you report something, you cannot report something anonymously. Well, you can report it anonymously, but you can't find out the status, which is bizarre. So what you have to do is you have to create an account or line on Facebook so people know who reported the issue. My question is and I'm working with City Manager Blease to find out what are the constraints and why we have this design. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Marilee Beasley.
All right. Good evening. I'm Marilee Beasley. I live at 14910 Lakeview Drive. I used to live at 15534 Congo Lane and have now moved to a special place with birds and turtles and so forth. Anyway, the purpose of my talk tonight is to provide a document and is to provide feedback regarding the future of Jersey Village and make recommendations for financial viability, safety, and beautification of the golf course. Under financial viability, I have feasibility studies in order to better understand the potential and business viability of the new golf course clubhouse and proposed site of a new city hall building. I recommend that a feasibility study be conducted. For funding, we see that there is a study that could be obtained from the hotel occupancy tax, which has very strict guidelines regarding the use of the money from the tax. The hotel occupancy tax is able to fund a study. I recommend a golf course business plan. I think we need to provide a business plan for the golf course. For Jones Road Crossing Development Potential and Business Plan, I think we should provide a feasibility study for the Jones Road crossing across 290. Then I think we should also do independent audits for fiscal soundness of the city of Jersey Village. I recommend that we audit all departments regarding their finances. And then with citizen involvement and oversight, I recommend that we create a citizens committee to mediate the frequent lawsuits that Jersey Village is involved in to save some money for the citizens. I want to emphasize safety. The first thing I have here is that golf course throughway. Now, these are my understandings, but due to the safety of the 5-ton capacity and excesses of such, I recommend that we shut down the bridge by the golf course or limit and rebuild it for proper capacity. It is my understanding that the bridge was never designed for cut-through traffic. Then also, I recommend AED and medical first aid training at the golf course. I think we should provide AED training to all Jersey Village staff, especially Jersey Meadow employees. I think we should also see about training staff on the use of EpiPens in case of bee stings and be sure that EpiPens are stocked at the golf course clubhouse. I recommend that we do regular code drills, especially in the evening when the traffic is in the heaviest by the golf course. And then looking at fire department professional and training development, I recommend that we hire more full-time professional firefighters to fight commercial and residential fires for our growing community. A volunteer fire department can't save your house, only the house next door. Usually, volunteer fire departments don't have the training for complex fires. Their first responsibility is to their full-time jobs. I recommend that we recruit qualified and well-trained individuals. And looking at the Jersey Village Police Department, professional and training development, I recommend that we hire more qualified police officers. We pay the qualified police and firefighters a competitive salary. I recommend that the police department hire candidates with college degrees. Then as far as Open Meetings Act and transparency, unless there's a very sensitive personnel issue, I recommend that we hold meetings in the open as required by the Open Meetings Act. Citizens need to be aware of the decisions and how those decisions are made for the city. Then I want to emphasize beautification and preservation. I recommend that we have a smoke-free wildlife area, areas and preservation. I recommend that we don't allow smoking at the golf course in order to protect the wildlife and the land. I recommend that we be sure and clean the outside patio of the golf course, pick up all trash on both sides of the fence to help preserve wildlife. I recommend that we don't allow foam cups since the golfers don't know how to throw them in the trash. I recommend that we use recyclable ones instead or sell Jersey Village cups to increase revenue. And for summary, you can see that I recommend that we provide feasibility study of the new golf course clubhouse, a feasibility study for the Jones Road crossing across 290, audit all departments for financial viability, develop a citizens committee to attempt to mediate the frequent lawsuits, due to safety, shut down the bridge by the golf course until further safety study, provide AED training to all Jersey Village staff, especially Jersey Meadow employees, train staff in the use of EpiPens in case of bee stings, and be sure that the EpiPens are stocked at the golf course clubhouse, do regular code drills in the evening when the traffic is the heaviest by the golf course, hire more full-time professional firefighters, A volunteer fire department can't save your house, only the house next door. They don't have the training, and their first responsibility is to their full-time jobs. Hire more qualified police officer and pay them. Pay all of them, the police and firefighters, a great salary, and you will be able to choose great employees. And then, unless there's a sensitive personnel issue, hold meetings in the open as required by the Open Meetings Act. Please never abuse the act. And then I recommend we create smoke-free wildlife areas and preservation through proper stewardship of the green spaces.
Thank you, Mary Lee. That was time. Okay, I have no more citizen comment cards. We're going to move right back into presentations. You ready, Chief? Here we go. Presentation, Police Department Employee of the Second Quarter Award, Stephanie Otter or designee. Commander of the Jeremy E. Ray, American Legion Post 324.
Each quarter, the American Legion Post 324's Jersey Village Police Department Employee of the Quarter Selection Committee meets to review a list of candidates that are selected by their peers within the department. From there, we select one employee most deserving of the recognition and appreciation. This is no way a simple task, as all of the employees of the department are outstanding individuals that serve a purpose greater than themselves. For this second quarter, 2018, the American Legion selection of officer for the quarter is Sergeant Bobby Ferguson. Sergeant Ferguson has shown a high level of professionalism, dedication, and productivity. He loves his job, and his work performance shows it. We thank you for your service and dedication to this department and our community. All of these attributes work together to ensure that the Jersey Village Police Department works smoothly and provides residents peace of mind and makes Jersey Village a destination community. Thank you. And with that small token of our appreciation. Thank you very much. And then here you are, sir. Thank you. And got it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor and Councilors. This month, I'm excited to announce that Luis Martinez is our Employee of the Month for the July 2018. Luis consistently goes above and beyond in his work, and over the past few months, the golf course conditions have greatly improved. Luis's attention to the details and dedication to the job have played a large role in this marked improvement. Luis is one of the first people to volunteer to come in and help when something breaks. As noted in his nomination form, Luis is a highly capable and motivated person, and our golf course is a better place for having him. So, Mayor and Councilors, tonight I am honored to present Luis Martinez with the July 2018 Employee of the Month Award. Here's a box if you want.
Congratulations, guys. Thanks for all your hard work for the city. City Manager's Report. City Manager Austin Blees.
Mayor and Councilors, we have the report in front of you here tonight. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, any comments or questions for Austin? All right, very good. Moving into the consent agenda then. Does anybody wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it into the regular session? Seeing none, looking for a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. There's been a motion and second. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item G, regular session. Item 1. Consider resolution number 2018-44, calling for the defeasance and redemption of certain City of Jersey Village, Texas certificates of obligation, Series 2015. Directing the redemption of such certificates and containing other matters related thereto. Isabel Cato, Director of Finance.
Yes. In April 2015, the City of Jersey Village sold $8 million certificates of obligation to Wells Fargo with an interest rate of 1.8%. The proceeds were authorized to use for water and wastewater projects, including the acquisition of sewer line construction improvement and repairs for the US 290 expansion. The project was completed on June 2017 under budget, so we have like $3.6 million available from the sale of these bonds. In addition, we received a reimbursement from TxDOT in the amount of $2.212 million. So we are recommending that we pay back these bonds, and so with this, defease these bonds. With this, we will save approximately $365,500 in interest cost. Our financial advisors, John Roebuck from BOK Financial Securities, and our bond counsel, Marcus Dietz are here, so if you have any questions, they're here for questions.
Okay, any questions for Isabel?
No, Isabel, just to be clear, we have 3.6 million of the 8 million that we did not spend,
That's correct.
and we received 2.2 reimbursement from TxDOT.
That's correct. And we're expecting, this was only 90% of the reimbursement. We're expecting 10% more. After we go through the audit, we will get the difference from TxDOT.
Okay, and then the difference between the 5.8 and the 8 million was our cost of the acquisition of the easements and utilities and so forth?
That is correct.
Okay.
And that will pay off that certificate of obligation completely?
We will pay off, yeah, we will pay off that debt completely. And we will save over $300,000 in interest payments.
Any other questions for Isabel? Okay, thank you, Isabel. Looking for a motion on the resolution.
Move that we approve the motion 2018-44.
Second.
There's been a motion and second. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item 2. Consider ordinance number 2018-14, amending the debt service and the capital improvement budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2017 and ending September 30th, 2018 by increasing line item 03516126, bond refunding cost, and line item 03509753, transfer from capital improvement, and line item 10-919753, transfer to debt service in the amount not to exceed $5,842,148. Isabel Cato, Director of Finance.
Yes, this item is in reference to the previous one, and this is requesting the transfers from the capital improvement to the debt service so we can make the payments to for this, to pay off this debt.
All right, any questions for Isabel? Okay, looking for a motion on the ordinance.
Move that we approve ordinance 2018-14.
Second.
There's been a motion second. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, any abstentions, motion carries. Item 3, consider resolution number 2018-45, approving the berm project design and authorizing the city manager to bid the project for construction. City Manager Austin Blease.
Mayor and councilors, before council this evening, we have the proposed path of the berm around the golf course. As you can see from the attachment, the berm will be about 2¼ feet tall along Rio Grande. At hole number 3, that is the high point along Rio Grande. Along hole number 6, the berm will get up to a max of 3¼ feet by the pond. The berm will cut through the pond by a few feet. The berm is proposed to be about 3¼ feet right there because the original survey by the Dannenbaum was done using LiDAR, and council will recall that we got a survey done so we actually knew how tall the golf course was. So the difference between this proposal and the long-term flood recovery was based upon that survey results that we had. So the berm will be at an elevation of 107 feet. At that level, it will not be behind any homes in the park at Jersey Village. Behind the townhomes along Village Drive, the berm will be an average of 2.42 feet tall. For the most part, the berm will follow the cart path, and a new cart path will be installed on top of the berm. The path will be 10 feet wide to accommodate golf course equipment as well as carts. With the berm at 107 feet tall, the engineers anticipate a storage capacity of 105.6 acre feet. This is lower than the long-term flood recovery plan, once again, because that plan was based on LiDAR mapping, and this is based upon the actual survey data. That map assumed an average berm height of 3.5 feet. So as council will recall, we had the survey done, and overall the average berm height will be 1.7 feet tall. There'll be an additional pond dug out between holes 2 and 3. This should add an additional 5 acres of water storage. Before a large storm comes in, we can pump down all the lakes to create even more capacity, probably about another 5 or 6 acre feet of storage there. If council approves the preliminary plan tonight, the engineer will finalize the design. We should be able to go out to bid on the project in August. Our engineers are here, and they do have a short presentation if the council would like to see that.
Good evening, council members. My name is Stephen Garza from Brooks and Sparks. I'm the primary project manager for this project. As already discussed, this is the Jersey Meadow Berm project. You should all have this as well. So just to get into some of this very quickly, the objective for the project was to prevent water from sheet flowing from the golf course to the Wall Street subdivision by raising the cart path to the 107 elevation. We're also going to dig an additional storage pond that could store anywhere from 5 to a maximum of 11 acre feet. We're also going to put in outfall improvements at the D127, which is the south side tributary. The improvements to the golf course are kind of intuitive. We're going to widen the cart path so that we can allow for two-way traffic. Increase area for the tee boxes at hole 3 and 6. It'll open the fairways as well. Demolition of the existing restroom facility where the cart path will be. That's a septic system, so it's not going to affect any water lines. And then improvement on the irrigation system only at the conflicts. So I know this next slide is a little bit hard to read. Let's see if we can do it from here. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yes. So this next one is a little bit hard to read, but this is something that a lot of y'all are familiar with. This is the FEMA maps, and this is going to kind of zoom into this one area, but this is for most of Jersey Village, and the zoom in is for just the golf course. So a lot of the questions come up about what happens at the 107. If you see the green path, that is the proposed elevation of the 107 at the cart path. But flooding does occur at the 106 as well. As you see, the darker region inside the golf course is the 105, but you work your way all the way to the 106 when you look at the existing tributaries from the FEMA maps, that being the D127 and the E135. So the 107 area is marked out in the 2 red lines, and that's the areas that we would propose the cart path to be at. You see the Wall Street subdivision on the east side, but this would all be detained at the 107. These are just some of the...
I'm not an engineer. Could you slow down just a little bit?
Yes, Yes, I apologize. So some of the specifications of the project is 3,800 linear feet of cart path, which is shown in the green, and earth berm only, which is 350 linear feet, which saves us about 800 foot of additional cart path where the tie-in is at in the purple. An 11 acre foot proposed pond shown there in the blue line, and then demo of the existing 1,750 linear feet of cart path shown in the red. All the demolition was only to improve the amount of storage on the golf course. So the best way to discuss this, not to get too much into the weeds, is to discuss the 3, 4, and 6 hole tee boxes denoted there. At the hole 3 tee box, which is on the northeast corner of the golf course, it's an average elevation of 1 to 2 feet of improvement to get to the 107. All of the alignments were adjusted mostly for playability and landscape, not to damage any of the existing landscapes, which consist of mostly old oak trees. So moving the cart path to avoid those. The proposed pond dimensions are shown there. That will also help mitigate some of the regular rainfall flooding that happens on hole 2 and hole 3. So sheet flowing from the fairways to the existing ponds, which could be pumped down to mitigate during large storm events. The next hole is hole 4. The tee box, the average area for elevation change is for 2 to 2.5 feet. Same thing, adjust the alignment for minimum damage to the golf course and its landscaping. We're also going around the old tennis court facilities, which is where we'll be demoing the existing restroom facility. So try to avoid as minimum amount of the golf course play as possible, but also increasing storage as we move further east. And then the one little tie-in area right there is just to tie into the existing cart path so that we have one solid line. The last one, which is obviously the most meat and potatoes of the project, is the average elevation of 1 to 3.5 feet elevation change. It also includes a 350-foot berm across hole 6 fairway. The same thing, alignment was adjusted to minimize landscaping. The other thing that was also considered at hole 6 was moving the entire dimension of the cart path, as previously stated, from the boundaries further north so that we can have our proper slopes to get to the 107 elevation. This area will also have outfall improvements, which would include a flap gate at a specific elevation and a water control structure to control water levels. But as you see here, we also have, I know it's harder to see, we have a swale that would get the water off of this area and also prevent water from sheet flowing into the existing properties. This last thing, this is the exact thing that we were talking about. The LIDAR data that was previously provided in order to get an average acre-foot storage on the golf course. This is the data that was pulled directly from the survey, which the golf course was surveyed at every 150-foot points. And all that information provided from the existing ground level, we get 108 acre-feet storage at the 107 line, and that's everything at the 107 is contained within the golf course. And then as you work down from there, the 106 elevation is 50 acre-feet. Adding in all the ponds, you would get 20 acre-feet during the pump down, so a total of 128 acre-feet of storage on the golf course, completely contained within the golf course. That is all I have for a presentation now. So council members, if you have any questions, I should be able to answer those.
All right, guys, any questions from council?
What's the maximum height at any point on the golf course?
The maximum height of the golf course, like points on the golf course from the survey, like not directed to the cart path. They're talking about like high areas within the golf course. Is that what the question is?
The top of the berm is going to be 107 foot, right?
Yes, sir.
So what's the maximum height at any point on the golf course?
Oh, the golf course reaches easily 110 to 112 at some of the high points. So you can easily see those if you drive on the east side of the course.
So where is that overflow point?
Well, the overflow, if I go back to the previous slides, which you'll see on the FEMA maps, is at each one of those elevation crossings, you'll see a 106 and a 105 at the E135 and at the D127. So at those high elevation points, both of your existing tributaries are full of water and out of their banks. So
you lost me. Where are these points?
So there's 2 points that cross these existing tributaries. That is the 106 elevation of your existing tributary, the E135, and that is the 107. So same thing on the bottom. You have a 106 and a 107. This line roughly represents 106. The 107 line is somewhere here, but it ends at this point. So all of the 107 is captured within our cart path. So the short answer is at the 107 elevation, your tributaries are flowing full, and the water would be stored on the golf course at the 107.
So how's water going to flow off the golf course if the tributaries are full?
Well, at that point, it would be hard to analyze how the water is running off the golf course because both of your tributaries would be at the 107 to 108. So anywhere above this, the water cannot get out if you have to go to 108.
So basically what you're saying is at some point with the elevation being 107, at some point making it any more than that would be pointless because our tributaries would already be out of banks anyways. And that's the whole point is, I'm guessing, just based on what I read, is when you have torrential rainfall and the bayou fills up to a certain point, the flap gate will come in once there's some sort of pressure change, once basically the bayou becomes more of an infiltrator rather than an evacuation point for water. And then at that point, that's when the berm comes into play because we're not getting water out no matter what anyway. So, but at 107, are there going to be any overflow points actually on the berm, any control points on the berm?
Yeah, I don't see that necessary to have overflow points from the berm into any existing storm sewer because the storm sewer would already be out of its banks and over its height, as you can see from the existing FEMA maps. I mean, to go to 107 to 108 is outside the scope of this project and cannot be firmly grasped within the berm. So,
I guess there's no way to predict what nature has in store for us in the future, but as far as history goes, do you happen to know what the highest water level's been in Jersey Village?
I do not know that number off the top of my head.
Would you have any idea whether it has hit 107?
I know that the 106 elevation that is shown right there on the FEMA map, I know that's a 500-year flood, and so I can't fully estimate what the 500-year flood is based upon the FEMA maps. But I know that that would be the 106 elevation, and our berm would contain the 107, and that 106 elevation being the 500-year event.
There was a few questions, and Ms. Rosmandi, I don't think we were ignoring you. We just, having an engineer answer questions is probably a little better than me trying to play amateur engineer. There was a question about the high point being 3.25%. I noticed that that's actually in a water feature, or what's currently a water feature. Is that the reason why that spikes where it is?
Well, yeah, I can show you the low point on the course. I don't have an image of it, but if you were sitting at hole 6 and you were playing that par 3 and looking that direction, that entire area slopes down, and that is the only area where we the 3.25 height change. The 2-foot number is just an average depth across, or an average height over the whole project, which is pretty minuscule. I mean, I think it's not even as high as I'm standing right now, so.
And I think that you've already answered the question regarding the drainage. Based on everything that you've done here on the design, you believe the swale will be sufficient to keep water from flowing into neighboring properties?
Yes, I think the golf course is already sloped to not put water into the neighboring properties. But that being a very minuscule area, that dimension is only a 30-foot dimension off the property boundary. I cannot see that water falling on that area would pond in that area in any way, and much less sheet flow at only 30 feet.
And one last question, just because it was asked, and I don't know if you've looked at this at all. Have you only looked at this system, or have you looked at it in terms of our overall long-term flood study?
Yeah, I've peeked into the Dannenbaugh system, but I also knowing that that's based upon LiDAR data, and also I don't have access to their X-Storm files, so I can't know exactly how they ran their models with what constraints. So I will kind of just leave the Dannenbaugh study as it is right now.
Okay. And Ms. Rosmandi, at least in my opinion, I think it's still needed because our long-term flood study contemplated all of these projects being built. It's not one or the other. We need all of the above approach, because honestly, not only are we planning for flood levels as they exist now, we need to be able to prepare for flood levels as they may continue to develop, and I think we've seen them only increase over time. So I don't think we have the luxury of choosing one project over another. I think we have to pursue all of them.
And what I think about just the berm is essential. This is something that's going to, I think when we first started talking about this right after the flood, the observations from the citizens were there was a lot of sheet flow, just sheet flow off of the golf course onto Rio Grande was a really, really big deal. And so this not only accomplishes that for not only, a flood event, but for your everyday 2-inch an hour, 3-inch an hour downpours that happened last week, that I think can fill up our systems pretty quickly. But secondly, with the widening and deepening of the bayou, this system really kind of multiplies the effect, because as soon as there's a rain, the rain bands clear out, this is when this system drains back into the storm sewers and back into our bayous. So the widening and deepening of the bayou, even though it's going to really do a lot to help our city, this in conjunction with it kind of makes it a multiplying effect. So I think it's absolutely essential that we get this going. And then I also want to say the 3.25 feet, I think that's right next to one of the tee boxes on number 6, so it's already very elevated there. So it doesn't really change any sort of views or impacts on drainage. So
yeah, your elevation at your tee box at number 6 is already at the 107. So if you flatten that out, that's pretty much where we're going to be at.
Let me kind of dovetail on what Councilman Warren said earlier. One of the questions Ms. Rosmandi asked was just, is the berm necessary? And when you look at the Dannenbaugh study, and one of the reasons why we're doing the berm is because there were 4 major recommendations. It was creation of a berm, it was addressing Wall Street drainage, it was widening and deepening the bayou. And because what we did, we worked from a set number of homes. During a major rain event, X number of homes were going to flood. And if we created the berm, if there was deepening or widening of the bayou, and if the Wall Street drainage was addressed, we identified about 60 homes that under a major rain event would still possibly have water. And that's when we started looking into an elevation program as well. And so the reason why the berm is necessary is it's a critical component of an entire plan to reduce the amount of homes that would flood during a major rain event down to zero or a very, very minimal amount. So they all work together, in other words, which is why we're having this discussion today. Gary?
Yeah, can you back up a slide? Yeah, that one right there. You got a little crook in your berm there where the tennis courts are. And I talked to y'all earlier about this, the thinking being that your pump station is going to go there.
Yeah, that's been some of the discussion about possibly putting in a pump station in these areas to help pump the water down during a storm event. But yeah, this was mostly just to tie in. It's an easy tie-in to go around these two areas to reach the 107 elevation rather than following the existing cart path around, also avoiding any damage to the existing facility that's here as far as gravel removal and fence removal, demoing that whole area to move the cart path back. It was just easier just to avoid it.
Well, I would like to hear some kind of confirmation from you and Frank, or even the city manager, that should this pump idea fall through, that berm be straightened out and that tennis court area be used for detention.
Yeah, I don't know how big the additional tennis court area is or what the elevations are off the top of my head in just this small area, but in the scope of the entire project, I don't know how much area we increase to avoid damaging all this area and ripping up the existing gravel. I would have to come up with a number to see how much benefit versus cost it would be to move the cart path to this area. But that's something that we can do as a feasibility if we need to.
Well, I hope when you take into account the cost, you take into account the cost of flooded homes.
Correct.
Let's talk about impact on the golf course real quick. I know you guys have consulted with city manager, director of parks and recreation, as well as golf course personnel. How much downtime do we expect during the golf course during construction time?
Yeah, this has been a conversation with several meetings. We've talked about this. There's really no way to estimate what a contractor would be. That would probably, since City of Jersey Village would be an owner, they could push the contractor for a particular schedule. But I only foresee the closing of 3 holes at any particular time. So it could be 1, it could be 3, but that would have to be written up in the specifications for what the contractor would expect for the schedule to be. But I couldn't see how the project would go over a year, much less 2. It's only less than a mile of what I would consider to be roadway. So.
Are you saying you expect construction to take almost a year?
Yeah, see, I don't want to push a contractor's schedule because then the contractors will come in here next meeting and said the engineer said this. But it's less than a mile of roadway, so I don't know what a project would be for less than a mile of roadway. And
like I was explaining to Gary earlier, there's a lot of the major portion of this cart path elevation improvement is just out of the way of the golf course. So it's real easy to detour through the area and just get right back on the course. So when we start working this out with the contractor, we're going to be able to do longer pieces at once, maybe 2 or 3 of them, and have a detour just like we do when we do a road project here. And so by doing that, it's just going to speed up everything and allow play. So,
Frank,
I guess it's going to be more hazard area too.
I'll find it, don't worry.
But essentially, you're moving dirt and pouring a sidewalk.
Yes.
And shooting elevations.
I don't think it's going to take 2 years.
So yeah, I think
I told him not to say anything that it would hang him in the end. But.
Yeah, a year seems probably half of that or
maybe
less.
Let's just say this: it'll be substantially complete a lot faster than the grass is going to grow back.
What about maintenance? What sort of steps over time is the city going to need to take in order to ensure that this continues to have structural integrity? I mean, is this something we won't have to touch for 10 years, 15 years?
There's going to be maintenance, but it's really earthwork and landscaping. And in my experience with detention ponds for large schools and high schools and multi-campus facilities, they've got to maintain it, but all the grass grows back, the trees don't die, and so it's just a matter of looking at areas and say, well, we might need to bring some dirt in here and put some grass on it.
So primarily erosion is what we're looking at, okay.
What's the slope of the bank?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we tried to limit the slope on the outside of the banks to a 5-to-1 slope, and then in discussing with the golf pro, 8-to-1. So we have plenty of room to work with. You're talking about only 16-foot run on a 2-foot high berm. So 8-to-1 on the inside of the course, mostly for fairway play, and we have plenty of room to do that. Our slopes don't conflict. We also did the same thing. We moved the cart path north here in order to reach a 5-to-1 slope for outside of the fairway areas.
Yeah, I can tell you, golfers are not going to be able to stay on that cart path.
I'm going to go back a little bit to our question about how important this is. I think it's important to realize that the Harris County is looking to do the E100 project, and they've already moved forward on that. This flows into the E127, which is actually not something they've moved forward yet. It's part of the bond project they want to do, which I support, but they're still considering whether or not it's going to be part of that bond project, or even if the bond project could fail, we need to move forward on this for future development.
Any other questions for staff or our engineers? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for your time.
Looking for a motion on the resolution.
I move to approve the berm design project in substantially the form presented and authorize the city manager to put the project out for bids when design work is complete.
Second.
And just for clarification, that's a motion to approve Resolution 2018-45.
Sorry, I was reading it precisely as it was written in the packet. Yes, that is a resolution to do all of that and approve resolution number 2018-45.
And I'll second.
We had 3 seconds. Okay, there's been a motion, seconds, or any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Mayor and council comments. Gary Wubenhorst.
The only comment I have is on Officer Taylor's child that's in the hospital. Hoping everybody will keep a child in their thoughts and provide any help they can to Officer Taylor's family.
Congratulations to the ones that got awards. I know I've seen Luis out there working as well as the officer. I want to touch on a few things. I understand how Jim Fields feels. My wife has been harassed also. Unfortunately, public records are a two-edged sword sometimes. Also, volunteer fire departments. I've worked extensively in the fire field, and both with Jersey Village and with 54 other fire departments in this county. And I can tell you that volunteer fire departments are definitely competitive with professional paid firemen. 73% of this country is still covered by volunteer firemen. And in just a few weeks, Jersey Village will be going up to College Station to take training alongside professional firemen, and there's even volunteer firefighters who teach those classes to paid firemen. So I am very proud that I have the Jersey Village Fire Department covering my house.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's my only comment.
I have nothing.
I can't say it better than James. I just want to thank our Jersey Village Fire Department and our very dedicated police department for all the hard work that they do. Despite some thinking that maybe they aren't up to snuff, I think they do a damn good job. So
We got the best public safety person on the area, hands down. So it makes one of the great things about our community, and I'm proud to have them here. But nonetheless, thank you everybody for your attendance. We are now going to take a quick break and a short recess. We're going to reconvene in the small U-shaped room for our work session this evening. Thank you for those in your attendance. Meeting adjourned. Actually, meeting is not adjourned. Meeting is postponed. Then after the work session, hopefully we'll adjourn.